In this video, we are going to be going over the most underrated maps in the history of Call of Duty Zombies. But I gotta be honest with you guys, this was a lot more difficult than I thought it'd be, because I actually find myself agreeing a lot more with the overall community on maps that are bad than maps that are good, because it was easy to find the overrated ones, but the underrated ones, this was a little bit more difficult. But nonetheless, I found 5 for this list, and it's going to be an interesting list, and I guess you'll see as we go through it, but let's not waste any more time and jump right into this list. Number 5, Dead of the Night, and yeah, let's start off controversial. Dead of the Night, yeah, it's a map that I don't think is underrated because people don't realize how great it is, but more of people overly hate the map. Like, people really be putting this map next to maps like Die, Rise, and Transit, where it's just not the level of those maps. It's definitely not there, and honestly, I think it's not even in the top 10 worst maps of all time. I think there's at least 10 maps worse than this map, and I just don't really get why people hate this map so much. Again, I'm not saying it's great, but in order to hate the map as much as you do, you have to like overly focus on the bad things and completely ignore the good things this map does, because I'd argue that there's some great things this map actually does. Like, sure, it has some really bad things with the Pack-a-Punch quest, which is definitely the worst in Call of Duty Zombies ever, and there's also the Easter egg steps with the scratches and all the other ones that are really bad. Like, I get all that, but then you also have the Alistair Annihilator Wonder Weapon, which is one of the best wonder weapons of all time, and there's also the overall atmosphere of this map. I mean, just think about it. It's this crazy mansion with marble flooring, giant Atlas statues, own private graveyard, observatory, and all that crazy stuff going on, thrown right in the middle of a forest where, because of this, there's a bunch of crazy fantasy stuff like vampires and werewolves that you actually fight in the map, and also during the Easter egg and even the boss fights. And there's the music that makes it all work together. Like, there's just so much good about the atmosphere of this map, and to completely ignore the greatness of its wonder weapon and its setting, I just don't really understand that. And to me, the only thing I could really think of, and this really turns into a question for the people who actually think the map is as bad as they think it is did you realize this map was bad all by yourself? Or did you watch a certain video called Zombies at 3 AM and then decided this map was absolute garbage? I don't know, just to question them. Either way, that's why Dead of the Night lands at number 5. Number 4, BO3 Moon, and we have to be careful here because I really do just mean BO3 Moon, because the original Moon is a terrible zombies map. I really don't like the original Moon. I think it's very bad. But when it was remastered over in BO3, the map was just so much better. And even if we ignore all the crazy technological aspects of the game, whether it be the graphics or all the crazy stuff that they decorated the maps with that wasn't there originally, which are all crazy, and the music they added and all that good stuff that was added with the remaster, even if we ignore that, I think the game just plays better solely because of the features that BO3 has to offer. More specifically, the Gobblegum feature, and I think BO3 Moon is the best example of how good the Gobblegum system actually was and why it should be a staple feature in zombies. Because if we think about all of the major problems with the original Moon, just with the Easter egg alone, like, the biggest problem was all the RNG mixed in there. And sure, the excavator thing is still there, even the BO3 thing, which is incredibly annoying, but at the very least, you could use Gobblegums like Immolation in order to get fire cells, so you could actually get the things out of the box that you need, which is pretty important because you need 3 different things out of the box, which is really difficult to get when you don't have the Gobblegum. So that alone makes the Easter egg just better. It's not only the Easter egg, also high rounds. Like, I challenge you guys to search on YouTube Moon Round 100 and try to find the video of it being on BO1. they don't exist. Like, nobody really got to round 100 on Moon in BO1, but when it was remastered and with the mixture of the Gobblegums, people were actually able to do it. And this is another example of why the map just played so much better on BO3 Moon. And because of this, I do think that BO3 Moon is underrated, and the only reason it's underrated is because people haven't realized how much better it plays on BO3 compared to BO1. Number 3, Buried. And this one is one that you may actually not disagree with here and think it shouldn't even be here, because I do know people that realize the greatness of Buried, but there are still some people out there that tell you that Buried isn't a great map, it's just good or okay. And those people are just false on so many different levels. I mean, it has a crazy wonder weapon, it has 2 different Easter eggs, and also when you complete all those Easter eggs and the ones before it, we got the first ever super Easter egg, which was incredibly cool. And that's not even mentioning the whole atmosphere of this map, because as I mentioned with Dead of the Night was my 3rd favorite atmosphere on any map in the history of zombies. But what comes before that? Buried. Buried has such a cool atmosphere. I mean, the whole western town underground with everything that comes alongside with it is so cool, and it's only made better by its soundtrack. And this is something I recommend you guys do. Just go search Buried soundtrack and listen to that. Even without the context of the game, that actually makes it much better, but even without it, it just sounds so good. And it's not even talking about like its main song of the map, Always Raining. That song is also super underrated, by the way, but all of it is just so good, and I don't understand why people don't understand that Buried is actually a great zombies map. Number 2, Forsaken. Yeah, this one is one that I don't think anybody's going to see coming, but yeah, Forsaken, the last round-based zombies map that we got. And yeah, I think there's a couple different reasons why I think this map is underrated. First is because of the wonder weapon. To me, the Crystal Axe is the funnest, not the best, but the funniest wonder weapon that we've got in the history of zombies, and it's not even particularly close. I mean, just being able to go swing around with the axe, killing all the zombies without having to worry about going down is just so fun. And that's not even mentioning all the other abilities of the wonder weapon. Just the melee attack alone is just fun, and it's super cool. It also looks super cool, the wonder weapon itself. But even on top of that, I think that the map does some other things really, really well, like wrapping up a story, something that I don't think Treyarch has ever really done well in the history of their existence. I mean, you think of all the seasonal wrap-ups to their story going back all the way to Black Ops 1 with Moon. Like, it was okay, it was cool, but like, what the heck happened after that? Next, there was Origins, which just left everybody with a giant question mark. Then there was BO3, which was probably the worst out of all of them in terms of story ending. And then there was Black Ops 4, which was incredibly controversial how it ended the Ether story. But then there was Forsaken, who did everything you wanted for a climax of a story. It gave you the final resolve to the big bad that you've been fighting this whole time, the Forsaken. It tied up a lot of loose ends and questions that we had, but then it also set some major cliffhangers for the future of the story. And that, to me, is just how you end a zombie season story. And I think it was just done so well, and I just absolutely like so much of it. And overall, I think it's a fun map to play. Sure, it's reused from campaign, which is annoying, don't get me wrong, but it does some other things really, really well. And finally, number 1. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I cheated for this one, but you guys honestly should get used to it by now. I think on almost all of my lists lately, I've cheated with 1 or 2 mixed in here. So yeah, that's on you guys for not realizing what was going to happen yet. But regardless, number 1 is none other than IW Zombies. And yes, as you may notice, that's an entire game, not just a single map. But I think that I have a weird way that I justified this in my head that maybe is a good justification to you guys also. And what that is that to me, when I think of IW Zombies, I don't really think about it as individual maps. I think of it as more of a entire experience. Like, you can't really get the IW Zombies experience unless you play all the maps. So to take one out and try to judge it one by one just to me doesn't feel right. And that's why I think it's okay to combine it into one giant thing. But of course, what are my reasons for it being so underrated? Well, I think everyone knows I'm going with this. I mean, the Easter eggs were just such a main focus of it, and to me, I honestly think to this day, Easter eggs are the best thing about zombies. I mean, Easter eggs were just done so well in that game, and on top of that, you had some of the best boss fights in the history of zombies. And it was made even better by the end of the season. They had a whole boss rush mode where you can only verse the boss and not have to worry about doing the Easter egg before that. That was incredibly cool. And that's not even talking about the rewards you got for completing Easter eggs. Because when you complete the Easter eggs, you would get a soul key. That's not cool by itself, but once you collect all of them, you get access to something called Director's Cut. And this Director's Cut gave you all the perks from the get-go and 25,000 points, which is an incredible reward. But now, if you go back and beat these Easter eggs using Director's Cut, instead of getting this soul key, you would get these masks. And if you collected all of these, then you would have access to the super Easter egg boss fight. And this was so freaking cool. Just letting us do all this stuff over again. It was just the absolute best. And because of this, I think it's one of the coolest experiences that we've ever had in zombies, but it's incredibly underrated, and honestly more people should go and play this, like especially as a time now where there's not really any cool zombies content coming out. Just go back, play IWs, experience it. It's so good and underrated. But that wraps it up for this video. I love to hear what you guys think of my list. You guys agree, disagree, or whatever that is. But while you're down there telling me what you think of my list in the comment section, also leave a comment of your top 5 most underrated zombies maps. I'd love to look through those, see what's going on there, see what people think are underrated, so I could go and dislike your comment when it's not identical to mine. But regardless, that's a wrap it up for me. If you guys did enjoy the video, definitely do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, bell, share, and all that great stuff. But I'm going to go, and I'll catch you guys next stream, video, or whatever the heck it may be, and laters, guys.